Okay, here we are on the bottom of page 1 in 9.6, and let's look at number 20, 1,000 to the 2/3. The directions are still the same. They're further up on the notes, but it's still, we're simplifying first by writing the expression in radical form and then simplifying it. And of course you can use a calculator to check your answer. But it'd be great if you could just be really confident about these numbers so you don't have to waste time, especially as we get nearer and nearer to the exam. So what's different about this one? Well, all the 3 previous examples, including the try, had a 1 in the numerator. So now we're looking at having an exponent other than 1. So there's something going to be happening with the power or the exponent as well. So we have a power of 2 and we have a root or an index for the radical of 3. So we're taking the cube root and we're squaring it. Or you can think of it as squaring it and then taking the cube root. Order doesn't matter here, so we can choose the order based on what is most convenient, what is simpler for us. But first let's translate that or rewrite it in radical form. So the cube is the root, the 2 is the power, so it's the cube root of 1,000, then that whole thing squared, or you could write that as 1,000 squared and then you take the cube root of it. Now the reason why you have these 2 choices is because, just like I said earlier, powers, roots, multiplication, division, it's all in the family there, so it doesn't matter which goes first, which goes second. However, there's an advantage here to recognizing what would be easier, what would be simpler. 1,000 squared becomes a huge number, and then you're going to definitely have to have your calculator for that, trying to find the cube root of 1,000 squared. However, if you write it as cube root of 1,000, you would recognize that answer as 10. Then you could take the square of that, and that will give you 100. And just very, very quickly, you could be at the correct answer. Okay, so watch for those opportunities. Let's look at number 24. We've got negative 27 in parentheses. Okay, that means something different than the negative 27 to the 1/3 that we saw up further up on the page. The parentheses mean what? They mean that the power and root apply to the negative as well. So we've got power of 2 or an exponent of 2. Actually, the whole thing is the exponent. The 2 means we're raising it to the power of 2. The 3 in the denominator means that we're finding the cube root, or it's a radical with an index of 3. There's 2 different ways to say that. And notice that the negative is inside. So the radical, or the exponent, the fractional exponent, the rational exponent of 2/3 applies to the negative as well. Again, 2 ways to write this. You could write this as the cube root of negative 27, the whole thing squared. Notice that negative stays right with the 27 because everything that's happening to the 27 is also happening to that negative because it's inside the parentheses. Or you could write this as negative 27 squared and then take the cube root. Again, trying to square negative 27, I don't have that off the top of my head. That's going to be calculator. Now I run the risk of wasting time, energy, and possibly punching in the wrong number, searching for the right buttons on the calculator. If I instead go with numbers that I recognize, the cube root of negative 27, that's going to give me a much cleaner, quicker answer here. In fact, the cube root of negative 27 is negative 3. Why? Because negative 3 times itself 3 times does give you negative 27. And so that's the cube root. Then we're going to square that, and our final answer is going to be positive 9, because negative 3 times negative 3 is equal to a positive 9. So our answer there is 9. And now you have a chance to try one. So number 18 is your chance, 25 raised to the 3 halves. Notice here, it's not 2/3, it's 3 halves. Just because the top is bigger than the bottom doesn't change it. The top is still the power, the exponent, the bottom is still the root or the radical, and the index for the radical. So watch for that here. But before you do, talk these through with somebody or even just out loud to yourself. Make sure the notes make sense. Mark anything that you want to ask questions about in class. It's so easy to watch the video and go, oh, I don't know, I should ask about that. But if you don't mark it down, you probably will forget what it was you were stuck on by the time you get to class. So make a note for yourself, put a little post-it tab or a flag or something, or highlight it with a big question mark, bright color that you'll notice, bring it to class, and let's take care of things, okay? All right, now it's time to pause the video, see how you do on 18, come back to the answer. after you've tried number 18, you should get an answer of 125. And I am happy to go over any of these problems in class, whatever you might be struggling or questioning with. All right, we will see you on page 2 of the notes.